Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, welcome to today's program. My name is Warren Stokes, your host and presenter today. I'm the Director of Sales at Avidian Technologies, the developer of Profit CRM for Outlook. I'm sure many of you are existing clients of ours, but there's also some folks that are probably considering Profit as their contact management system. So we have a really important topic today. Actually, it looks like it's one of the more popular topics I've broadcast in quite a while. And that is, I would like to share with you some of the best practices for effective contact management. Seems like a simple thing, but it's actually got some really key concepts. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you some of these concepts and explain what we're going to go into detail on. And then most of our time will be spent actually showing you how it all works. We're going to be demonstrating this in Profit CRM. So the topics that we're going to cover, actually there's quite a few topics. So we're going to try to get through this in about 45 minutes. But one of the big questions that I run into is, what is a contact? You're going to see that it's not quite as simple as it sounds. We're going to show you how to structure and then interpret the data, the contact data in your CRM. Simple things like how to create contacts, companies, and so forth in the system. Working with views, these are basically lists that you can create that'll give you the ability to organize your data. How to export data to an Excel file, using search functions, how to find things, setting up sales automation for contacts or accounts. And then also I'll show you some of the ways that Profit helps you prevent duplicate data from getting into it and how to clean up data if it happens. So as I said, one of the questions that comes up is, what is a contact? Well, the reason it's not as simple as it sounds is several things. A lot of times it's the record of a person. So that's like a noun, the contact, the person. It could be considered the record of a company and perhaps the people associated with it. But it's also can be referred to as an action, to make contact, to do outreach in various ways. A phone call is a type of contact as a verb. And there's different types of phone calls. You can have calls coming in, you can make outbound calls, you can leave voicemails, but they're all some form of a contact. Another word for that is a touch, a touch with a client or a prospect. A meeting is a type of an action to make contact. They can be in person, they can be, Zoom meetings or team meetings, as it's very common these days. A contact could be an email, an outreach. Those emails might be sent as individual emails, or they might be part of like Profit's group email function or some other email system. But one of the things I want to emphasize is that contacts are one of your most valuable assets. Think about it. Your sales contacts, your prospect contacts, your even vendors and other contacts. And to have a centralized database that everyone can access and share is one of the key value propositions of having a good contact management system. And now we're not going to get into a lot of the other parts of the CRM, such as opportunity and lead tracking and so forth today. We're going to focus in on the contact aspect of the system. But just to get you kind of oriented on how the data structure works, is companies are a type of contact, but they actually have people associated with them. In Profit, you also have the ability to have parent-child relationships with companies. In fact, there's an unlimited number of tiers that you can have with that. So you can have a company with child relationships or subsidiaries, whatever you call them, and those subsidiaries could have other companies under them. It becomes a very good way to keep track of the association between companies, or customizable fields in the company record. Contacts are the individual people as we refer to them in Profit. And those are actually Outlook contact cards. And whether you sync them with your local contacts or not, we still use that format because pretty much every device on the planet syncs right out of the box with Outlook contacts. So phones, your laptop, your desktop, there's customizable fields for those. But the whole point, we're not going to get into opportunities today, but the whole point is to be able to capture all your contact data, keep it in a central place, and then track all the activities and information associated with those contacts and companies. The types of data we're looking at are pretty simple today. We're going to be looking at contact data and company data, and we're going to talk about and show you actually in real time how do you actually get contacts into the system. It happens you can Outlook contacts themselves are part of the system unless you mark them private, which is an Outlook function. Company records are created automatically. It's pretty cool, actually. You'll see how that works. We have a patent on that. The drag and drop from inbound emails. A lot of things happen from email, so we have to make it very easy to create contacts from inbound emails. You can create contacts from the Profit mobile apps. And there's also an import function where you can import data from Excel. And that's also, by the way, used to mass update records. We have website form integration to create contacts and or leads. We also can integrate with accounting or other systems to integrate contacts from those systems. I'll be posting my contact information and our customer service information at the end of the webinar. So if you're interested in any of those other topics, please feel free to reach out. Creating company records is pretty simple. You can create them just using the new company function. You can create companies like you can contacts from the mobile app through the import utility. But here's a very important thing about all of this stuff, and that is what I call the data taxonomy. What it really means is you want to be able to have enough data to classify and categorize and organize your contacts in useful ways. So Profit adds these 20 customizable fields to the Outlook contact, and that gives you the ability to sort and filter by different criteria. Here's a very important thing that I wanted to share with you though. Think of your data as very important, and actually the basic Outlook contact or the contact record drives so much in a CRM. I like to think of it this way. There's certain things you really must have. A full name is good. I hate it when you just see a contact and it just says Bill, and a phone number. That's just not very useful. So full name, email address, of course, is a must-have. Phone number is a must-have, and it's nice to also get other information. So the next level down is kind of what you should have. If you really want to get it right, you should include a company name if it's applicable. You should include job title so that you can sort and filter and understand, the role of your contacts. Mobile numbers, very important, cell phone numbers these days. So there's obviously places to put those. Physical address is great. You don't have to have it, but it should have, because how would you filter by geography if you didn't have that? Even state and city, very important, zip code and so on. Nice to have include some of all the customizable fields in Profit, such as LinkedIn profile, hobbies, interests, birthday, and these are the things that you can customize in Profit. And when I say customize, if you are an admin of Profit, you can do it in the admin console. Otherwise, you go to your Profit administrator at your company and you talk to them about what you think you need there. Company data taxonomy is much the same way. The things that you must have, pretty obvious: full company name, phone number. Should have stuff would include things like the physical address, same sort of deal. Website would be nice. Industry, very important if you're working in a role that would require you to kind of understand where your customers or prospects are by what industry they're in, and doing outreach and email blasts and so forth. Type of company might be, are they a distributor? Are they an OEM? Are they a partner? Or what type of company are they? All those are customizable. Things that are nice to have: what size are they in terms of the number of employees? How many locations do they have? What are their revenue streams? Do they have parent company or subsidiaries? And so on. Now, I want to switch very quickly over to the actual demonstration here, but I wanted to focus in on a really key thing. Remember when we talked about how a contact can be looked at as an action? So you're making contact with a person or a company. So Profit has built right into it the ability to have a customized list of contact types, so activity types we call them typically. A phone call, a voicemail, an on-site visit, and again, customizable so that you can make it a click function so you don't have to type that in every time. So let's just switch gears and let's go into Profit. And we're going to start by just going into Outlook. So most of you already know that Profit just kind of lives in Outlook. You'll have a set of folders over here on the left that are your Profit folders. We're only going to be looking at the Contact Manager and Company Manager today. There's different ways you can navigate into this. You can just click on the folder. It'll bring up your view of contacts that you were last in. It remembers your last view. And in this case, I'm in a list of contacts in Hollywood, California. You can also have them open in separate windows, like you can have your inbox, your contact manager, your various screens open at once. And most of us use multiple monitors these days. So that's an option. How you do that is you just right click and say open in a new window. And that way you can easily navigate between lists and views that are already open. So when you first start with Profit, there's really just going to be two views of contacts. So let's kind of get into that a little bit. So I wanted to show you how these views are created and how to structure your data that makes sense. So first thing, you're going to have two views: My Contacts and All Contacts. Many of you have already made or created your own personal custom views. You can do it by geography, by type of contacts. I have one that's a prospecting view and so on. This one is organized by geography. So let me show you about this view here. And this will go to kind of creating any view and organizing your views. The columns are just the fields in the record. So if it's a contact, there's first name, last name, company, job title, phone number, etc. But you can also add these custom fields that Profit adds into your view. So over here on the far right of these tabs, where I have general, notes, opportunity, and so forth, is you have your custom fields. You can rename that tab, or your administrator can. But the idea here is you would want to have, like, what type of contact are they? Are they a prospect, a student, a current client, or what have you? And again, all customizable. You might want to know whether they're a qualified lead, maybe have their LinkedIn profile. Where did this contact come from, the source? You can have things that are very useful in sales or relationship management. What are the person's hobbies? Are they married? If so, what's their spouse names? These fields can be drop-down lists. They can be date fields. They can be text fields, and they can also be what we call a memo field, which is just an expanded text field, like for a bio of somebody. So the point here is that you can use these additional fields here, like lead source. Let's say I've created a list that's all filtered by, first of all, the geography. So you notice all these contacts are in Hollywood, California, zip code 90210. I'll show you how those work in a little more detail here in a moment. But then you can use these columns to filter by those criteria. Like, let's just say that I wanted to see all of the contacts in Hollywood, California that were originated from a cold call. Well, there you go. So it's a very simple list that you can create by adding a filter. And notice this is just like an Excel filter. If you look at it, you just have the little check boxes. Now I'm going to clear that filter, and I'm going to show you another aspect of this, which is kind of how to search through a column like that. Maybe it's a super long list and you just want to start typing in, I want to start typing in trade show. I only had to type in the first few letters, and it already recognized that I wanted to search for contacts in that column that were originated from a trade show. Again, to clear the filter, you just click clear filter, just like Excel. So how do these columns get in here? You're going to start with your defaults, but you need to be able to create these views. Pretty easy. You just there's two ways to do it. You can just right click if you're in an existing one, and you just say choose columns. On the left, so it pops up a column chooser. On the left will be the columns that are available. And remember, there's a lot of them that you might not have in any particular view. Oh, let's just say country. If you want to move it into your view, you just select the right arrow, and it'll move it to the bottom of the list, which is the far right. Now, if you want to move it to the left, you just move it up for a ways here. And you can see that what I've just done is I've added a column, and I've moved it about halfway through my view here. And that column that I just created is called country. So now you can see that that's all loaded up, and then you can sort or filter by country. If you wanted to save the fact that you put that column in there, you just say right click, say save changes to view. So we're talking about a very fundamental but yet very important thing today, which is the creation of your lists. Some people call them lists, views, same thing. So let's talk a little bit about how you can create a new view. So I can just click this little button. It's a little, it's not terribly obvious, but if you mouse over this button, it has kind of a red pencil and a piece of paper, sort of an icon, and it says edit this view. So I can edit a view that way. So that brings up some other editing options, like, for example, how are you going to select your contacts, by folder or by user assignment, or what kind of contacts you want. You can add additional filtering, and this is where I was pointing out these all match three criteria. They're all in California, they're all in Hollywood, they're all in zip code 90210, and the condition here is very important, is that this is an and filter. So the criteria are that all contacts that match all three of these filters are going to be displayed in that list. Pretty cool. If you made it an or filter, that would mean anyone that's either in California or Hollywood or 90210 zip code would be displayed, but that's not quite as useful usually as a filter. So we usually will choose the and filter if you want to have a very, granular filtered list. You can also add columns here. You can change the sort order of the columns automatically. So this is just your view setup. And again, how I got there is once I have a view, I can click on that editing button. You can also create a new view very easily. So notice up here where it says view, and there's a drop down arrow. Well, if you hover over the tools, you get some other options. One of them is to create a new view, manage existing views, save view as. Maybe you filtered it and you want to save it as like you would a document, save it as contacts in Colorado or something. But let's just show you how to create a new view. It's super easy. You just click create new. Brings up some default columns, but you give it a name. And I'll call this my webinar example view. How about that? And we'll just create a new view for you here. All right, so this one, I don't think I need a description, but you could put one in. By the way, this is just whether you want a simple list or a table grid. Forget the simple list. You should always put it in a table grid, in my opinion. But here's where, how do you want to select the contacts in this view? Only your own contacts from a folder, because Profit can sync with any folder in Outlook, or by user assignments. So let's just leave it on that. Do you want to see all those that are maybe for someone else, assigned to someone else? That brings up your hierarchy of users. If you have the permission to assign things to other people, that would be applicable. But in this case, I just want to add some additional filtering. And I'm going to say, I want all of the contacts that are in a certain state. So I just started typing in the word state and I selected that from the list. And then you have equals, doesn't equal, contains, and so on. But I'm going to just put equals. In this case, let's just put in Washington, WA. So all I'm really doing is I'm creating a contact view called contacts in Washington. You can add some to your description if you want. Let's just finish that up. And now it's going to create a view of all of the contacts in my database that are in the state of Washington. I didn't save that, so let's do that again. Equals Washington, and okay. So you can. What is it doing there? It's always a live audience here. Yeah. Just save that, and it will save that view as contacts in Washington. And just like I have all of these here, prospects in California, contacts in Washington, or any other list that you want. So that's how you would create a new view. Now let's move on a little bit and start talking a little bit about the importance of the data taxonomy. Here's an example. Let's say you're doing some prospecting and you want to create a big list. So this is where we can get into importing. You can actually import lists into Profit. Very useful if you're doing outbound prospecting. That's sort of maybe a lost art these days. But how that works is, first of all, you create a spreadsheet, and I'll show you an example of one. And you have certain fields that you want, because it's going to help you sort and filter these contacts that you've created. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you some examples of how these fields really make for the ability to create very specific contact lists. And then I'll show you briefly how the import tool works. We have other videos on more deep training on that, but I will show that to you. So what we would do to get a contact list like this, we would get, first of all, our data in an Excel format. And I'll just show you some examples of that, or an example of that. So here's one that has both contact and company data in it. Notice down at the bottom, one of the worksheets is labeled contact, one of the worksheets is labeled company. So maybe this is obvious, but when you're creating your import spreadsheet, the first thing you want to do is get the right data in there. First name, last name, company name, email address, phone number, and it just the column headers just obviously have to make sense. Now, most of these are just system fields, but some of them in here might be custom fields. For example, type of contact. So you remember when I talked about type of contact, I'll just go back to my my list view here. Type of contact is one of these that's in the custom contact profile. So that would be your custom field in a in your Excel spreadsheet. Has to match exactly, by the way. Current client, prospect, vendor, and so forth. Users are your Profit users, so you can pre-assign them, and it's very useful to do in an import. You should usually have someone assigned to them, otherwise they're kind of orphan contacts upon import, and then only an admin can find them. So you can assign multiple users to it by just putting a comma between their names. You can put notes in here. One little tip on that. Not sure the reason for this, but it's a useful tip, is if you start putting notes in a contact, you have to put a note in all of those in that particular import, even if it's just a note that says imported on such and such a date or what have you. Internal and external ID, we could get into a separate discussion. That helps you connect contacts to other entities. Speaking of that, you can import companies into Profit. The one main thing about the company import is you can't have any exact duplicates. This is one of the important things, is you can't have exact duplicates of company names, which might probably make sense. But you have all the other data, including some custom fields like industry, type of company, and so forth. And once you have that data in the system or in an Excel spreadsheet, you can then import it going up here into Tools, Import Wizard, and I have a couple of screens open here. So I'll just show you from a different view here. Let me grab that. So one of the concepts is making sure you have all the data in these Excel files that you are going to be importing. And it's also very important to import your company data first. So the way it works is if you import your company data first, and if you're importing contacts and companies, then what you'd want to do is have the companies imported first, because then your contacts will automatically be associated with them by the company name. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll get into that a little bit. Not deep, we're not going deep into this, but we're going to go in and say we want to import, let's say, contacts and companies. By the way, you can import opportunities as well, but that's not our topic today. So let's go ahead and show you how to import contacts and or companies into Profit. So the first thing, you get your Excel file created, you save it, and then you have to close that Excel file so that you can then run this import tool. The import tool is found right up here under Tools, and it's just a 4-step wizard where you import the data, you select the file that you want, you map the fields, and automatically it all starts happening. So that's how that would work. Let's get back into the various ways that you can create contacts into Profit. And I am keeping an eye out for any chat questions or Q&A that's going on here. Creating of contacts can be done a number of different ways. So first of all, anytime you create an Outlook contact, unless you mark it private, it will be created in Profit. Another way to create contacts is dragging and dropping from an inbound email, which I can show you. You can also create contacts from the Profit mobile apps. And for that matter, if you're syncing your phone with Outlook and you have Profit, you can actually create just a native contact in your phone. There's another function of creating contacts, which has to do with importing contacts from a website. So let me give you an example of that. So if you have forms on your website, like this right here is Contact Us, name, business email, phone number, etc., that we can set up, or you could. We have an open API for this. You can create contacts from a form on your website. That's a pretty cool function. And finally, we can do integration with your accounting system. We're just going to show you a few of the basic ways that you can create contacts in Profit. And one of them is going to be from an inbound email. Now, I have some screens that I need to close down here. So let's just go back to a real simple function of creating a contact from an inbound email. All right, that's a pretty popular thing. So right now we're just going to talk about you get an email in Outlook, and you just want to see if you can create a contact from that inbound email. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just open Outlook. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pick a contact here. I'll look one up here. Anthony. So Anthony is an email that I just got, and I want to create a contact from it. All I have to do is I can just drag that down to my people folder. Now what Profit does is it looks to see if this contact is already in the system. If it is, it will show you that a match was found for that person. In that case, you don't have to create the contact, otherwise you'd be creating a duplicate. So you could just open that contact right from that duplicate checking screen. And then, so there's that contact, and you can move on from there. But if you wanted to create a contact that there wasn't any match, let's say, you just continue and say create new contact. Now this is warning me again that a contact already exists like this. So in this case, I'm going to say yes, even though it warned me, and I'm going to create a new contact. So here it is. The contact has been created, first name, last name, email address put in there. But you might notice that's email signatures have the ability to just put them right into the contact card. All I'm doing is I'm just dragging. You could copy paste, but this way you can get things like the exact spelling of the company name and so forth. So you can create contacts from an inbound email very easily. In Profit, you can also create contacts through various screens. Anytime you see the function that says new in here, and I just had some kind of an error, so I'm going to pause here while I sort that out. Let me get on that. Whenever you see this new function, you can say create a new contact. Now this also has duplicate checking in. This is the manual way to create a contact. I could put in here, well, let's just use Anthony again. I could put in the first name and it's going to start looking for all of the Anthony's in my database, but I have many Anthony's in there. But if I start typing in the last name, you'll see that it will actually just sort it out or filter it down to only the contacts that are actually in there that have both that Anthony and Hopkins as the last name. Great. So I wouldn't create a new one because it already exists, unless maybe there are two people in your world named Anthony Hopkins. But another aspect, and this is actually a very useful thing, is rather than creating the contact first based on the name, first name, you can start typing in the spelling of the company, and that will start bringing up companies that have that first, the letters you're typing in. Now I started typing in the word delicious, and that's part of the company name. And notice that that company is spelled exactly like this. And since I already have a contact with that, here's a little shortcut for you. You may or may not know this. If you want to create a contact from the same company, you just open the Outlook contact and you go right here. And watch what happens. I can say, I want to create a contact from the same company. So this will auto-fill several of the fields, and it will also associate it to the same company. And now let's just say I put in the first name and the last name. This is the new contact. I might as well spell it right. And I'm going to put in the email. Well, we could do that later, but there's the phone number already populated, and I've created a new contact for that company. Now what you're going to see is when you're in that company record, which you can access several different ways, I'll show you a little shortcut. In the contact, you can actually open the company associated with that contact. Profit ribbon, open company. And so now I will look at the company, and this is going to be the segue into the company contact management part of this, is I can open the company record associated with that contact, and I now see the new one, Billy Smith, and I see Anthony there as well. You can also see here, now we're in the company record, so we're segued into that. Company records also have customizable fields, like you might want to keep track of how much revenue the size of the company is or company type. You can have up to 72 of these fields. You notice how you can, they can be drop down fields, they can be date fields, they can be memo or text fields, but that helps us with the taxonomy of sorting and filtering by companies. So what we've just covered in the contact is actually all applicable to the company record. So when you click on the folder or have the folder open called Company Manager, we're going to be covering now kind of the next level up of contact management here in Profit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our company data, and it's going to be a list just like we had before. You can create views based on company information by industry or by geography or what type of company they are. But that field I was just referring to, company type, is one of the custom fields. Notice that I can sort or filter by any of these. Let's say I wanted to look at only manufacturers. So again, like an Excel filter, I'll look at manufacturers. And this list is also already filtered by geography. So this is all the manufacturers in Hollywood, California. Now, a very useful function in Profit is to be able to do outreach. One thing you can do is just log in your activity. And remember that we talked about this earlier, that one of the concepts of contact is to contact someone by phone, left a voicemail. These are your customizable activity actions here. I did a continued outreach, and whatever you guys want, your administrator can set this up. Basically, it's just so that you don't have to type in repetitive things. I sent a quote, I left a voicemail, and so on. And notice that the time and the date and the username is stamped in there automatically. It becomes a great way to just keep track of the touches with your customers, prospects, or vendors, or whatever you're managing there in your world. So that's very handy. Another thing you can do in any list in Profit that has an email address associated with it is you can actually create a mail merge, which is a physical mailing, or you can send out an email blast to everyone on that list. Now, this is very unique in that this is not a blind copy. It's not like a mass email. It's actually going to create an individual personalized email to everyone on this list. Now, I could just type the email, just like I was composing an email to one person. Or you may know that there's both quick parts, which are a type of template, and in 365, you can actually just insert content from templates. So I'm just going to insert a couple blocks of content here. I'll put in my signature. And all I'm doing here is I'm creating an Outlook email as though it were going to one person. Now I send that once I'm ready to compose. The first one in the list alphabetically gets sent, and you'll actually be able to see it in your sent items. You can go inspect it if you want. I don't usually do it. I inspect my email before I send it, for typos and such. And then you just click send, and it'll ask you, do you want to send the rest of them? And you say yes. So this function is a very useful function built right into Profit. Now, having shown you that, that's great, but it's also not a mass email. If you wanted to send, there's no exact limit on what you can do in Profit, 50, 100, couple hundred. They take about a half second each to process through Outlook. I'm going to go ahead and, all right, I'm looking at a couple of questions, which I'll get to in a moment. But the main thing with this is that it's really for relatively small blasts, 50, 100, 200 at a time or whatever, targeted lists. But Profit also has integration built into it with MailChimp, and we have a new constant contact integration coming out. So what that means is you can keep your data in Profit and keep it centralized and organized, and you can subscribe those contacts into various lists. You can do that through the company folder or the contact folder. Let me take a couple of questions. One of them is, can I get more detailed info on making contacts from forms on our website? Yes. Rosemary, thank you for that question. I will, if you don't mind just emailing me that afterwards. So I get a lot of, we get a lot of questions that I'd like to get right back to you on that, but I will definitely take care of that. So website form integration. All right, let's see, another question I have is every time I add address to say business in Outlook, Profit automatically copies that address to home and vice versa. Randy, why don't you reach out to me separately on that? I'm not exactly sure the question there, but I'm sure we can help you out. So let's continue though, just to make good use of our time here on the program, and feel free to ask more questions. All right, very good. So we are in a list of companies, and one of the things I wanted to show you is how the parent-child relationship works. So I have companies in our database here that have parent-child relationship. What that means is that a company can have related companies that we call child companies sort of below it in the hierarchy of the data. So parent is, in this case, this Carl Foundation, Carl Clinic, Carl Engineering, Carl Foundation Hospital. All of these are subsidiaries, if you will, or child companies to the parent. Now, if I'm in a child company, you'll actually be able to easily access the parent company just by clicking that link, and vice versa. So you can go back and forth. The main thing is it gives you visibility of all the companies that are related to one another. And a very important thing, that if you are in a parent company view in a list, you can actually see opportunities for either just that company, or see this little box, include child items. This would roll up all the opportunities for all the companies that are under that parent company. Pretty awesome, just to kind of keep track of your very large customers, so that you can have visibility of all of the roll up, if you will. A couple of other functions here that I wanted to go through, which applies to contacts and companies, is the ability to track emails. So let's just go back in and let's just look at some accounts here, and I'll just choose my Hollywood accounts again. So here in the activities section, this tab down below gives you the ability to track emails, appointments, and tasks for anyone related at that particular company. So if I click on the email and click search here, it just organizes all the emails that are sent to or from anyone at that company puts it right into the company view here. So these emails have been sent or received to or from anyone at that company. So that's the company email tracking. You can automate that. Any email can be set so that it automatically links to a company or contact. I will show you that here in a moment. And then it's up to you and your company as to whether you want emails to be linked, which means shared amongst your team, by the way. So how that works is, I'll just go into my inbox and I'll show you an example of that. Let's say I get an inbox from, let's just do Anthony again, just for the sake of it. And let's say that I wanted the contact from Anthony the contact, to be linked to a contact or a company. You'll see up here in the profit ribbon a little link symbol. I use it, put it in my, quick access toolbar, but it's the same thing. And I can now link this to any contact or company in the database. So in this case, I can say I want to link it to, automatically link it to any company, but in this case, I'd probably link it to his company. Click link. We'll link that email one time, making it shared amongst the team. Click auto link, and any email to or from that person will be linked to the company record and thus be shareable when you're looking at a view of the activity under a company. Same thing applies to appointments and tasks. So that's a pretty handy thing to know. And it's very powerful. But also remember, when you're linking emails, it makes them shared with anyone who has access to that record. So let's talk a little bit about getting company records in here. You can do it from the import, which I briefly showed you the concept of. You can also just go in here and say new company. That just creates a new company from scratch, and it will basically, then you would then add contacts to it or what have you. Very simple. You can create companies from the mobile app. You can also create them through the import, as I said. Now let's talk a little bit about getting data out of Profit. So one of the simple things you can do is anytime you're in a view, filtered or what have you, sorted and filtered a certain way, like I could sort this view or filter it down by certain types of companies. And let's just say I only wanted, several different categories of company or something in here. One of the things you can do is you can export to Excel. So I'm in that list. I need to point out that this is a permission-based function. If you go to do this and it says it's not available, you don't have the permission set up. Talk to your profit administrator. I'm sure you can imagine why we restrict the easy ability to export to Excel, because it's very valuable data. But in any event, you can either export all rows or selected rows. It's super easy. And people use Excel, they know how to use it. So this is our most common report that people do, is just simply export to Excel. I will show you a couple of other examples of reports here, but anytime you're in any list in Profit, you can easily export to Excel. Let's see here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the searching. Searching is a very important function. So let's say you're in a list, and I'll just go back into my main list here, one of my main lists, and I'm going to show you there's several ways to search. There's actually 5 ways to search things, but don't let that bother you. One of the things you can do is you can search any column. It's just like Excel. You click the little filter button and it says search, and I could look for the woods. Okay, now in this case, I find a couple of companies that have that search criteria in it. So maybe I just want to look at that one. So this just lets me search for a particular record that has whatever search criteria I put in it. If I want to clear that, I just click clear filter. So you can do that with any column. Again, search, maybe I just want to look at for the word OEM if it's a long list, and there you go. So in other words, you can search by clicking this little filter icon on any column. Another type of search is the view search. That's up here. And so this might be, I just want to search a list for the term Lebowski. Okay, so I just put that term in there. And out of all of those company records, it found the one that had well, it could be more, but this one is the only one that has the term Lebowski in it. My Lebowski Manufacturing, John Goodman, and all those wonderful people. Okay, one of my favorite films, by the way. So you can clear that search. So we've got column search, we've got search view, Now, another thing you can do is you can search for records and include a search of the notes. This is pretty interesting. I'm going to just type in a term. It's quite a, so if you typed in something like meeting or something, that's going to be like you get 1,000 records. But if you type in a very specific search term, like in this case, I'll type in that term, it's Madagascar. Well, you know, what's interesting is anytime any of those were in the notes in that view, it would display those, but it doesn't actually display them. Let me find a note that actually would work there. Let's see here. What I'm looking for is just some sort of unique note that I can, oh yeah, here we go. I'll put in the term 900 companies. Oh, I did it without notes. I need with notes. That's why that didn't work. Let's do Madagascar again. Okay, type in your search term with notes and it will display any records in that list that have that term in the notes area of the company, in this case, the company records. So that could be fairly handy in case you want to look for like a project name. So here in Lebowski Manufacturing, you can see down here in the notes, we discussed Project Madagascar right there. Here in Mel Gibson, you can see down here in the notes that it will have that term Madagascar in it. You can see in this one, again, Project Madagascar is referenced. So that's by searching with notes, and that's a useful function. You can search advanced without notes and just to simply find another company that is not in this particular list. It's just a bypass of the filters. Okay, let's say I want to look up Carl Clinic and I want to bypass the list I'm in just to save a little time here. Well, I can find that record just through an advanced search without notes in that case. So we got column search, we've got search view, we've got search without notes, and we've got search with notes. All work great. Another one though is the ability to just do what we call a global search. So if I click on this search icon, which you'll see in the profit ribbon or various places, and then you put your search term in here, like I'll just put in Mel Gibson, actually a friend of mine, sort of. This will bring up all data related to Mel Gibson. So you can see that here's the contact, there's the company, there's all the opportunities related to Mel, and there's my notes and Mel's contact, which I'll point out is actually real. I did meet Mel in the Intercontinental in Chicago. He was filming a really cool film called Payback, had his black leather jacket on. It was a great film. Anyway, I digress, but that's how you can use global search. A unique thing about global search is you can actually search for images or other things, documents, and it'll, in other words, outside of the profit database, you can look at spreadsheets, appointments, or anything that has that. So here's, in fact, I did an image search and it found Mel Gibson's image on my computer. Pretty cool. So that is the searching function. Another function that is useful in Profit is the ability to generate, and I'm keeping an eye on my Q&A. Randy, why don't you and I talk about the integration stuff offline here? It's a little more than we can get into today, but I get your the drift of your question there. Anyway, so one of the things you can do is you can generate documents. It's called FileGen or generate files. You can have this right from the list view. You can say, I want to generate like a proposal for this person. So this will generate a proposal document that's based on a template, and it's going to autofill information from the, in this case, the company record and the contact prepared for this person. For Carl Clinic, there's the address, city, state, zip, and see how it's auto-filled wherever that field name is in the template. It just auto-fills it into with this FileGen function. Very useful. If you create a file like that, you'll see that it's going to be linked to the company automatically. And let me just show you what those templates look like. I think that would be a useful thing to do here. So let's just go in and look at my FileGen templates. So a template looks like this. It's either a Word or an Excel document. We're doing Word today. And it just simply has the field flags like contact name, company name in these square brackets in the Word document. And then you just save it to the location of your choice. In fact, you can show, if I click on tools here, you can see template file locations. So you can decide where those templates are in my case, it's just on my local drive. It could be a shared drive. And then also you can save the default of where you want those files saved to. And if it's a public drive, they'll be available to anyone. So that's how you can create auto-filled documents from Profit. So it could be project plans, could be a call report, it could be some sort of a invoicing thing or whatever you want. We're going to touch on 2 types of reporting here. I know we're reaching the top of the hour, the 45-minute. Okay, I got a question. That search button on the left searches Profit and your computer. Yes, go back to that just to quickly clarify. If I click that search button, you can see how it will search your computer as well for anything related to your search term. That's why we call it a global search. It's Profit, it's Outlook contacts, it's emails, it's all this cool stuff. Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So let's talk a little bit about more reporting, and then we'll wrap up here. So there's 3 types of report. The export to Excel, which I showed you. There's also various types of reports built into this tool called the Report Manager. And there's about 30 or so that come with Profit, but one of the useful ones is just to create kind of an activity log of from your contacts or your companies. And you can customize this. So if I wanted to go in here and change that image there, I can do that. I'll just show you that real briefly here. And let's say that I want that to be one of our logos, let's just say, or this would be like your own company logo, of course. I'll just pick one here. There we go. So I just put our Profit logo in there. I'll save that. You can change colors. But anyway, once you create a report or modify it, you can then run a report. You put in the date range, either 15, 30, 60, or you can select a certain date range, specific date range. I'll just do 15 days. And you can generate this in Excel or what we call BASIC, which lets you then save it in different file types. So here's an example of that report. Called the office and got Scott's cell number, scheduled a new meeting. The blue is, I formatted that as well. It just shows you the activities, in this case with contacts or companies in the context of today's training session here. Great. So you can create a new report using this wizard. And all that is, you give the report a name and you choose the columns you want, and then you can format it further once you've got that report built. And then finally, there are dashboards that you may or may not have access to, depending on your plan that you have with us. I won't get deep into those, but suffice it to say that you can have all of your activities for contacts and companies on a graphical format so that you can see just overall call activities or various, whatever you've labeled those activities as. It's got some fuzzy AI logic in it to kind of extract, role from job titles and such like. Pretty cool. It's the analytics dashboards. Ask your account manager if you don't have it, how you can get it. That's about all we have time for today. And I do want to thank everyone for joining today's session. I want to post this contact information for just a few minutes. And if I haven't answered your questions or your outreach during the webinar, please feel free to reach me or your account manager. And I want to wish you a very safe rest of the day. And we'll talk to you again on the next program. Thank you.